Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Wow. This is a wonderful crowd that we have for this breakfast today, and I am so honored and delighted to welcome you here to the 32nd Annual Harvest for Hunger campaign kickoff. Yes, it's a big deal. Harvest for Hunger always takes place right on the cusp of springtime, and I think that this campaign was started to be a spring campaign for that exact reason. I don't know, but it's always a sign of the seasons for me. So many times we've had this kickoff on an Ash Wednesday, as the ribbon cutting for our pantry was last week at Ash Wednesday. But we've kicked off this campaign on Ash Wednesday a lot. You'd see people come and having clearly just been to Mass. And as the campaign progresses, we pass through Lent and St. Patrick's Day, the holiest of Irish holidays coming up. And you can repurpose your Harvest for Hunger green at St. Patrick's Day. You should know that we do at the food bank. But then, of course, Passover and Easter. And the arrival of the daffodils, I saw some this weekend, and they've always been my most favorite plant because they're the most courageous and hardy signs of the change in seasons. And we wrap up this campaign in May with summer right around the corner. So for those of you that are weary of winter and looking forward to the promise of spring, I want to invite you today to join us now in focusing on making this campaign everything that it can be, so that we can take care of the food bank and its mission to serve people all year through. It's worthy, and it's good work, and it's fun. It should be fun, and it's good for the soul. So let's all get after it and make this campaign a great success. Thank you. We have to. The Harvest for Hunger campaign is the food bank's largest annual fundraising campaign. It makes millions of pounds of food free to hunger relief partners across the region. It is itself a regional campaign, operated simultaneously by 4 food banks in Northeast Ohio. Its scale, the name recognition of the Harvest for Hunger campaign, and the wide coalition of partners that support it provides our region with a distinguishing anchor in the fight against hunger that really does set Northeast Ohio apart when compared to other markets across the country. We know that when we're properly nourished, we can participate in everything life has to offer. We're healthier, we can work, and we can contribute more meaningfully, of course, to the world around us. And if you're anything like me, we're a lot easier to get along with on a full stomach. You know, although I say that somewhat in jest, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Have you ever driven across the turnpike with a hungry 4-year-old? Yeah, I have. Andy right here. He would go crazy. My son Andy's here today, and my wife Holly, so lovely, are with us. But, you know, we've all been around people that get, what's the term, hangry? Yeah. Well, that's a real thing. That's distressing. And oftentimes a person, when they're in that place, can create and build tension in the car on the way across the turnpike or anywhere you may be. And I think that those little ripples of tension create stress in people's lives that I'm on a mission to alleviate. And I'll tell you that if we were able to do nothing more in this work than simply help people avoid the frustration and anger that can oftentimes come in and complicate a family because people haven't had enough food to eat, I think it would be a worthy mission in and of itself. But we know that food does much, much more than just help lift our moods. Over the years, I've come to enjoy using this occasion to give a general report to the community about some of those things, about what's happening at the food bank. And so today, later in the program, I'll be back, and I'm going to run down through some things that we're excited to share with you, and we'll talk a little bit about the food bank's future. But recently, while Amanda, our board chair, and I were reflecting together about 2022, she asked me which was harder, 2020, the first year of the pandemic, or 2022. And I didn't have to think long about my answer. It was 2022. That was the hardest year of my career. Not because of the number of hours that we worked. That doesn't bother me. But the sheer volume of bad news related to the labor market and supply chain disruptions and donation shortages and inflations, it just felt like we couldn't get any momentum going. And we had to battle like never before to keep food on the menu. I've never seen anything like it. There were times this past year in 2022 when our food list was the shortest I've seen it in my 20 years here. It was a scary time. But we worked like crazy throughout the year to get and stay fully staffed and to implement new strategies to find food. And as the saying goes, the harder we worked, the luckier we got. In the fourth quarter, things started coming around, and we're continuing to see inventory levels increase at the food bank just in time as pandemic-related SNAP, or what used to be called the food stamp program, the SNAP program benefits expire in March. Many Ohio families will be experiencing a $90 per person decrease in their food benefits. And the food bank is already mobilizing to prepare resources and distribution partners in place to respond to that change. And we expect it's going to have a really big impact on people's lives. And this Harvest for Hunger campaign is a vital part of our ability to do that and so many other things that we've done in the community over the years. And as you all know, the rising costs rising costs and inflation caused severe economic challenges for a lot of families last year. And the food bank saw a 14% increase in the number of people served by our pantry network, and 30% of the families we saw were new, meaning they never in their lives visited a food pantry ever before. They were not in our system. And what's remarkable to me is that at any time, you can look at any month statistics at the food bank, and you'll see between 15 and 30%, 30, being a pretty high number, percent of the people that come through having never been there before. There's a constant churning of people falling into poverty and food insecurity, coming into food pantries, getting back on their feet, and going back to their lives, and we never see them again. It happens. That is, in fact, the norm in this work. We are an emergency food provider. We opened the Keith D. Monda Family Food Pantry at our Stark County campus in 2021. And we anticipated serving about 100 families a week from that food pantry. But that program quickly became a flagship pantry in Canton. And last year, more than 600 people a week came and visited that pantry. It was more than 60,000 people throughout the course of the year. We served through that pantry with almost 500,000 pounds of food. And we have worked hard to fill gaps in the emergency food network created by the pandemic. 43 food programs closed in 2022 alone as a result of pandemic-related impacts, and that's a really big deal. Lack of funding, a difficulty finding volunteers, and et cetera. And so to offer support, the food bank stepped in and provided $1.7 million worth of capacity building resources for these charities through food and equipment and carts and microwaves and things of all kinds to help support our charities. And in addition to that, 79% of all of the food that passed through the food bank's warehouse last year went out to our 600 charities at absolutely no cost to them or anyone who received it. I'm very proud of that. That's a big deal. When I say that, I'm talking about $30 to $35 million worth of food given away for free in this community as a way to fight food insecurity and poverty at the same time. And it's a very significant scale the food bank has achieved, and I couldn't be more proud of what we've accomplished together. The perseverance of the food bank and our hunger relief partners, bolstered by your unwavering support, drove incredible impact in the community in 2022. And together, we distributed the equivalent of 23.3 million meals last year, over 30 million pounds of food, including 6.9 million pounds of fresh and nutritious produce. And there were a whole lot of other things for us to be proud of. partnering with many people in this room today. We hosted 63 food distributions with our mobile pop-up pantry. It's a truck with roll-up sides like a beverage delivery truck. And we take it to parking lots all over the community and roll up the sides, and we serve people at senior centers and in different parking lots. Nearly 11,000 people were served on that program alone last year. We collaborated with local farms and Produce Perks Midwest to deliver fresh produce from local farms directly to people's doorsteps. A program we're really proud of. More than 26,000 food boxes were assembled at the food bank and delivered directly to people's homes through our home delivery program last year. And our pantry was chosen as one of the first food banks in the nation to pilot an online ordering program so that people can select the food items that go in their food boxes. Now, we are leading the country in extending that platform to food bank partners and charities like those in the room today, with hopes of scaling the Order Ahead program far and wide. These programs, meeting people where they are, demonstrate our commitment to equity. Equity to us means equal access to opportunities and resources that people need to live healthy and hunger-free lives. And I can't think of a better program that expresses that priority more clearly than the Order Ahead program and the Home Delivery program. Other programmatic milestones include serving 24,000 people at our drive-through distributions with more than 500,000 pounds of food. How many times have you driven down Main Street or driven down Opportunity Parkway and seen an army of volunteers standing out at the food bank and lines stretching around Bartage Avenue down to Main Street, sometimes all the way to the spaghetti warehouse? Our staff and volunteers and the National Guard standing on this parking lot in all kinds of weather. We had one day where we had all 4 seasons in one food distribution out there in that parking lot. We've seen it all, the hugs, the smiles, the diversity of the people that come through the lines. It's a fantastic experience, and if you've never volunteered at the food bank, we want to invite you to come down, especially now. Winter's a tough time. If you're feeling lonely, you can come down, and we'll be your friend if you need a friend. If you need a hug, you can get a hug, but we'd love to have you come and join us at one of these food distributions. We really got into the food box making business during the pandemic. We weren't really doing that much of that prior to the pandemic, but I mentioned 26,000 food boxes for home delivery that we did last year. We also built 21,000 food boxes for seniors through the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, which was a 14% increase from last year. So we built about 50,000 food boxes in our warehouse with volunteers who come in and help us do that. We served more than 13,000 children every single month through backpack and after-school programs that we help supply. We hosted 170 sessions at our Altman Health Foundation resource room, connecting nearly 1,000 neighbors to resources beyond food, like legal assistance and mental health resources. And a project we're really excited to get off the ground last year was partnering with 3 local hospitals, Summa Health Systems, the Cleveland Clinic, Akron General, and Akron Children's Hospital, to open food pantries in those hospitals to address health disparities and improve food access. And we're so grateful for those partners. Could our friends from Akron General and Summa Health Systems and Akron Children raise your hand so we can give you a round of applause? Thank you so much. Yeah. It's so cool to see community partners come together and make these things happen. Obviously, food insecurity drives a lot of other issues in people's lives and affects our health in so many ways. So 2022 was a year marked by innovation and collaboration. And I do want to pause and just recognize our incredible staff who have been so faithful and loyal. Can staff members that are in the room this morning just raise your hand or stand up, throw us a wave so we can give you a round of applause? We love you so much. You're the real deal. We have a great, great crew. And so while we were doing all of these things this year, the food bank embarked upon the final phase of our capital campaign. The campaign that funded the construction of the new food bank in Stark County, and if you haven't visited it yet, we'd love to have you down. It, I believe, is the finest new constructed food bank in the country. But we're also now starting renovation of our Akron facility. And after a lot of setbacks and with great effort, we broke ground in Akron in November. The project features a new network partner welcome center, which agencies here I think you'll really enjoy, and a distribution dock on the south side of the building. Our freezer and cooler capacity is going to be doubled, which is something we're very excited about. And we're excited also to add a food pantry on site similar to the one that we're operating at our Stark County campus. In January, friends gathered at the food bank and supporters of the campaign and signed a 21-foot beam that's already been mounted high on the distribution center, and their names that day were signed to a legacy that goes on far beyond ourselves and its impact to the community. So, we look forward to continuing to update you and maybe show you some pictures next year at our Harvest for Hunger kickoff of the Akron facility expansion when it's complete. In 2016, I stood here at this breakfast and I unpacked our Food Bank 2020 strategic plan. The plan was the birthplace of many of the achievements we've been discussing this morning, but that plan concluded in 2020, before a pandemic would stretch us in ways we never thought possible. We discovered, when we really stepped back and considered our position, that we experienced as many as 10 years of regular growth during those 2 years during the pandemic. We just did it. We just responded to what was in front of us. And we have emerged a much stronger and a much different food bank than we went into the pandemic as being. And although our plate was more than full going into 2022, we knew it was time to get back into planning mode and set the stage for our work ahead. We found a terrific planning partner in Michael Devon of A Through Services, and the work began to create our new strategic plan. We engaged in countless conversations with families receiving food. This is something that means so much to our food bank. The voices of people who are experiencing food insecurity are paramount in our considerations and our service for people. We talked to our hunger relief partners. We talked to volunteers and donors and community leaders, many of you that are in this room today, to collaboratively develop a new strategic plan that moves us closer to our vision of a thriving community that's free of hunger. Time and time again, during the conversations that we had in our strategic planning process, we heard that the food bank not only rose to the challenge during the past few years, but it surpassed expectations. The message we received loud and clear was stay focused on what you're doing. Do it more, do it better. That's why the focus of our new strategic plan is to deepen our impact. And that is precisely what we intend to do. Our 3-year strategic plan, Deepening Our Impact, focuses on 5 key areas: our food bankers, our food bank, our investors, our communities, and our neighbors. And I'd like to take a moment to walk through these areas starting from the inside out. Our work ahead for our food bankers and our food bank. As you know, the pandemic strained society as a whole, and it put a ton of pressure on the workforce. I still think it's put a lot of pressure on the workforce, and I think it shows up in a lot of ways, sometimes in missed days of work and depression. But we're not out of it yet. The food bank was not spared the hardship of the Great Resignation. We experienced more turnover last year than we've ever had in our history. And at the same time, we were transferring a lot of staff members from Akron to work at our new Canton facility, and we were hiring a lot of new folks to fill jobs. And as a result, we have a lot of new people and processes that we need to take time to focus on and develop. And so to improve retention, staff connectedness, and wellness, we'll continue to work really, really hard and make it a top priority to create a culture and drive a culture that creates engagement and joy for our staff while also investing in professional development opportunities. We simply can't have a best-in-class organization without best-in-class people. and we take that very seriously. And that's my advice to nonprofits in the room, to take very seriously your approach to your staffs and your people. Without the best people, you can't have the best organizations, and it's worth your donors' money and their support to make sure that you have the best possible people, because that's what drives results for the mission. Another focus area in the new plan is our food bank. One lesson the pandemic made perfectly clear is how important it is to have resources in place before disasters strike, and that affects our ability to respond. The infrastructure investments made possible through our capital campaign will enhance operations of the food bank for decades to come, and we need to stay focused on completing that work and ramping up programming over the next couple years. And I'll just really quickly close the program like I close every program. If no one has told you that they love you today, I want you to know that the Akron-Canton Regional Food Bank loves you. You're dismissed. Thanks for coming.